time. Good. Let's talk about other developing news then that we gotta talk about today. Now, the government is really trying to look for ways of making money. A couple of services have been readjusted in terms of the rates that you're paying for them. Let's talk about it. Now, the national ID replacement is going to cost 2,000 shillings from 100 shillings and 1,000 for those not previously registered ID. That's exactly what Kidhura Kindiki says. Now, there's another Gazette notice the majority of Kenyans ran into in the course of the week as well, that was essentially touching on the amount of money it's going to cost you to, at the Attorney General's office, to do your vows in case you want to get married. Remember, is all through it's been pegged at 5,000 shillings. Now, for you to get married at the AG's office, you really have to part away with 50,000 shillings, as it is now. Well, that in a bid for the government to continue raising revenue within the country, because we did see KRA missing the revenue collections by whopping 79 billion shillings. And again, that is going to continue as they figure where this money is going to come from. Because indeed, even as you look at the government really going in heavy in terms of trying to get these revenue sources, it's again clear that even on the areas where they're raising these taxes, well, they'll be missing a lot of revenue on it. Case in point, petroleum levy in the country, they've continued to miss it. And this occasioned by the high taxes that have essentially pushed the cost of a petrol to 217 shillings, with fears that it might get to 300 shillings. Now, the use of fuel in the country has gone down by 11%. Is this what's going to happen when a majority of people are going to shy away from these services now that the government has essentially packed a high cost on them? Good. Here's the thing. Benny Kalwale is tweeting this morning as regards the impeachment proceedings that happened yesterday for Kawira Mwangaza. This is what he's saying, that a lesson from Governor Kawira's tribulations in Meru: if you're married and you don't love each other like her and her husband, baichu, basi wewe ni bure kabisa. That's exactly what Benny Kalwale is talking about this morning in as regards the impeachment proceedings that we did see yesterday that were leveled against the governor of Meru County, that is Kawira Mwangaza. Well, there's just a lot that we're going to get into this morning. In as much as the coverage of that is concerned, we're going to talk about it shortly in our big conversation this morning. Much to look into that. For now, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, then I'll be taking you straight to your newsroom where we get to look at majority of the big stories then that you are waking up to this morning. All right. Welcome back. This is the Morning Drift. My name is Simba. Elijah Charles Kiage. We are live online across our social media platforms. That is at Lookuptv. I am at Kiage Simba. For now, let's cross over to the newsroom then, where Public Service Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria is a man under siege yet again, following his remarks on social media regarding the impeachment trial of Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza. Senators led by majority and minority leaders Aaron Cheruiyot and Edwin Sifuna early Tuesday, while referring to him as a national embarrassment, reprimanded the former Gatundu South lawmaker, calling for his ouster.
Moses Kiarie Kuria, a seasoned controversial politician whose political career has been marred by controversy, most recently transferred to the Ministry of Public Service from the trade docket, weeks after attacking the state regarding the importation of edible. Kuria, who was resorted to using social media to express his opinions on various issues, rattled senators, most of whom are from the ruling coalition, led by Majority Leader Aaron Cheruiyot, after accusing them on his X account of taking sides in the impeachment trial of Governor Kawira Mwangaza. The seemingly angered leader of majority, who doubles up as the Kericho senator, took a swipe at the cabinet secretary over his sentiments on social media, while expressing his support for the cause to oust the embattled CS.
I want to register my disappointment in the increasingly unbecoming conduct of Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, a man who's continually embarrassing the appointing authority and casting serious doubts on the choice ability of none other than His Excellency, the President. Mr. Speaker, sir, that tweet was in bad taste. It paints senators as cheap people who have no cognitive abilities to make interpretation of the matters that are before us. I now agree with members of this House who have brought censure motion before to discuss the conduct of this particular minister, because at every given opportunity, he has done nothing other than embarrass the appointing authority. In fact, it is my submission, Mr. Speaker, that the earlier CS Moses Kuria is let off his duty, the better for this administration, Mr. Speaker.
His sentiments were echoed by his Nairobi and Homa Bay counterparts, who questioned Kuria's credibility and suitability in holding the said office.
Moses Kuria is an incorrigible national shame. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I ask myself is just how much embarrassment does the president have capacity to endure? That this particular cabinet secretary, who uses social media to disparage the House, to refer to matters before the House, to speak of the House in a manner that is extremely demeaning, that this particular person be summoned to appear before the House.
This comes as Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei also took to his social media accounts to slam Kuria and his Rhodes counterpart Kipchumba Murkomen, with the Senate Speaker Emerson Jeffa Kingi urging the senators to employ the standing orders in trying to censure Kuria. According to Article 152 of the Kenyan Constitution, only the National Assembly has the power to move a motion to discuss the dismissal of a cabinet secretary and not the Senate, thus the ruling by the Speaker. However, the question remains, with Moses Kuria having played a crucial role in President RUTO clinching power, will he heed to the calls and dismiss Kuria? Or will the National Assembly censure a motion to get the embattled CS out of office? Ian Keitane, Lookuptv.
Now, Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza yesterday put a spirited fight at her impeachment trial as she sought to defend her seat. Now, during the intense interrogation, the governor at some point was moved to tears as she watched the demanding video evidence that was submitted during the proceedings yesterday during that sitting. Now, later on, the Senate did rule that all the evidence that was presented in that trial was essentially null and void. Let's therefore move on to the next story, where Finance and the National Planning Committee now wants KRA to open a closed border point, saying that these posts are used to sneak in illegal goods into the country, posing a security threat. In a meeting with KRA yesterday, the committee urged for the opening of the border posts in a bid to increase the tax base in the country.
Does the KRA?
In efforts to increase the tax base, KRA has proposed plans that will aid them collect more revenue at the border points.
The same approach is adopted. And you find that for us to operate in the system I have explained, there are systems that have been put in place. First, at the OSBPs, or point of entries, we have committees. That is the border management committees. And in every land border, KRA is the lead agency. We are the chair of those committees, and we ensure the coordination of all the borders run smoothly as it is expected. When it comes now to the national level, we have the border control and operation coordinating committee.
The Finance and National Planning Committee now wants KRA to open border points, arguing that the posts are used to sneak in illegal items in the country.
Cartels, very powerful cartels, nobody knows, they're invisible. The sugar that you consume here, part of it camouflaged as mumias, and this comes through those borders. So officially, and this is my take, and this has been my take, it is safer, it is better, it's convenient to have the border officially open because it's unofficially closed for the wheeler dealers, the carteliers.
The committee has promised to propose an amendment bill seeking to reduce the amount of tax imposed on tourist goods as they visit the country.
To portray a good image of the authority and be sure of this support. Where it is about legislation, we have picked it up. We'll pick it up with the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury so that they can take it to the Ministers of Finance in the region. But even as we do that, we also institute an amendment in our own parliament here, so that we, a law that was passed 2004. So much has changed since then.
KRA has maintained on Tourism Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua sentiments that tourists will not be taxed on arrival with goods if only the goods are for personal use and not for sale.
By KAA at the airport. So we're in discussions with them in terms of the infrastructure, the layout, even the positioning of the scanner, what is the optimal place to put it so that passengers are not inconvenienced, and how, having private areas where we can, verify and even interrogate the travelers when they come in. So those are all areas that we've already identified and we are working on that.
Mevin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Right. Welcome back then. Now hundreds of people in Samburu and Machakos counties have been left homeless due to the floods that have left a wave of destruction, with residents essentially facing distress as the heavy rains continue to pound different parts of the country. Now leaving them in a dire situation, as Regan Lemeguran now details.
As the El Nino rains continue to wreak havoc across the country, residents of Larata village in Samburu were rendered homeless. Their homes submerged and their livestock swept away after raging floods in the area. Transport was also paralyzed after the Marsabit highway was marooned by the floods.
Maji inaingia kwa buroti, inabeba kila kitu, unga, nini, makondoro inajaa. Pito sinajaa, kwangu sinabeba kuku, mbuzi sinakunywa maji, chakula hatuna.
The same was witnessed in Itomboni, Kiumbi area in Machakos County, with residents raising concern of contracting waterborne diseases as a result of poor hygiene and pneumonia-related complications occasioned by cold nights.
Have had a big challenge by the contractor that they have been able to construct drainage in a way that it is affecting our land in a big way. As you can see, there is a lot of flood water that has been directed to my piece of land together with my neighbors, and we are appealing to the government to make sure that something is done, because this project is rendering our land useless. We are not opposed to the construction of the road. The idea is welcome, but as you can see here, there is a lot of water in my piece of land. You can see the tunnels that have been constructed, directing all the water, all the landway water from the hills up there to our pieces of land. So we are appealing for the construction authority to make sure that proper construction is done and proper drainage are done.
Azimio leader Raila Amolo Odinga has called for the compensation of freedom fighters for the suffering that they went through to liberate the nation. Speaking as he presided over the launch of Mau Mau Freedom Fighters Foundation, a website and a memoir in Langata, Nairobi, Raila further emphasized the need to deal with all the historical injustices.
We're dealing with the Mau Mau armed struggle, which itself had a very, very accelerating effect in creating consciousness among the people across our country. Because mzungu, you are not a Kikuyu, you are not a Muluhya, a Jaluo, a Mkamba, you are just a bloody African. Kafia, very bloody African. So Waafrika wakaungana pamoja. Kwanza Mau, pili sasa kwa hii nationalist movement ya ambayo sasa imeleta watu wote pamoja, wakaunga mkono. Kwanza kuliundwa mkono kule Kirigiti Kiambu, walienda because after 1952 when cow was banned, Africans were not allowed to hold any national party. So this matter was raised with him, and I was happy that Mr. RUTO raised it in his speech that day, and it's an ongoing conversation. Paul Mwita suggested a bipartisan approach of opposition and the government. But this must be an inclusive process that deals with all historical injustices and ensure that justice is done and that this matter is finally put to rest permanently.
Now, Security Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki now says unnamed leaders in the current regime are behind the increase of cases of cattle rustling and banditry in the northern parts of Kenya. The CS, who appeared before the National Assembly to respond to an array of issues, says the security apparatus are in pursuit of these leaders who are financing youth to perpetrate crime for the selfish economic gains. CS Kindiki has also made it clear his ministry has revamped security in Lamu to respond to threats posed by terror group Al-Shabaab.
I am afraid that we will have to prosecute a number of people, including high-ranking people in Kenyan society. No amount of noise, politicization, ethnicization, or any other maneuver will distract us from securing Kenya from people whose business and trade is in the blood of the people of Kenya. They buy expensive firearms, give poor boys who have never been in school, who have no food, who have nothing, to go and kill people, collect property, which property, much of it goes into the hands of merchants. I want to report, therefore, we've made a lot of progress in profiling the major catalysts, beneficiaries, benefactors, financiers, spiritual leaders, and political godfathers of crime who perpetuate the crime of banditry, other crimes, by stockpiling small arms and light weapons, giving it to innocent citizens of Kenya to kill their fellow citizens simply because they come from a different ethnicity. We will not allow any Kenyan of whatever rank, religion, color, creed, to jeopardize national security, pretending that they are defending a boundary. Let them use legal, peaceful, and lawful methods to defend boundaries.
Now, Pumwani Maternity Hospital is set to launch the Pumwani Mashinani Initiative in line with the government's agenda of achieving universal health care for all. Speaking during a media tour, Chairperson Board of Management of the facility, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, said the task force, which was put up by Nairobi County boss Johnson Sakaja, has seen positive changes in service delivery in a span of 8 months.
And we've invited you all here today because we have two big milestones for this hospital. One is what we are calling our journey to 100. As we speak today, we are 97 years old, and in 3 years' time, Pumwani will be 100 years old. And this is very monumental for a hospital that was founded 97 years ago, and particularly with the governor's initiative that Nairobi must work. We have been commissioned on an RRI by the governor to ensure that we improve the services in Pumwani Hospital. And our motto really is customer obsession. I'm sure you've heard the governor talk about that, customer obsession. And therefore, what we've done working together as a team is set out various initiatives through which we intend to, one, improve the services that are available in Pumwani, and number two, ensure that the community around us is familiar of what we have to offer in Pumwani, and that we've sensitized them, one, on the capacity of workers we have here. You can see I have a big team, excellent staff, nurses who've worked here for 20 years, 13 years, doctors who've worked here for a really long time and who are so passionate to ensure we get good health outcomes. Our second initiative is known as Pumwani Mashinani, and this is essentially in light of what His Excellency President RUTO launched, essentially bringing health to the community. And so Pumwani shall follow that cue, and we shall be engaging with members of the community starting this week. We'll be offering a medical camp where we'll be offering a wide array of services, targeting our mothers, targeting the women in the community, making sure we are fighting against cervical cancer by offering HPV vaccination, making sure we are fighting against breast cancer by doing breast examinations, making sure we are fighting against diabetes in pregnancy by offering diabetic checks, making sure we are fighting against hypertension in pregnancy by offering services in the field where the community is.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has termed drug abuse as one of the key threats to security in the country. Kindiki spoke in a Tatu Nyeri County where he inspected and accredited Ihururu Treatment and Rehabilitation Center, maintained that his ministry, in collaboration with NACADA, will lead fight against the drug and substance abuse.
As the government continues to wage war on drugs and substance abuse, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has stated that drug and substance abuse has been ranked third on the list of major security threats in the country.
Katika vita hivi tunapigana na madawa ya kulevya, tunapigana vile vile na vileo vyenye sumu ambavyo havijahitimu vile vipimo ambavyo vinakubalika na wataalamu wa afya, na vile vile tunapigana na uraibu.
CS Kindiki, who spoke while in Nyeri County where he led inspection and accredited the Ihururu Center for Treatment and Rehabilitation, commended partnership between national and county government in combating menace caused by drugs and alcohol abuse.
Wizara ya Usalama wa Taifa itaendelea support ama kuunga mkono NACADA kutafuta rasilimali za kutosha ili shirika letu la NACADA litimize wajibu wake.
The CS further noted that addiction to drugs remains a major challenge to the youth, and it is for this reason that NACADA has been tasked to do follow-ups on persons who have been rehabilitated to help them recover from drugs and substance abuse.
Wale ambao watahitimu kutoka vituo kama hivi wasaidiwe. Wale ambao hawana ujuzi ama ufundi ama utaalamu, tuwatafutie ufundi na utaalamu, hili iwe ni njia moja ya kujikimu kimaisha na kuhakikisha kwamba wamefaulu katika maisha baada ya kusaidiwa.
CS Kindiki has assured that the government is strengthening capacity of NACADA to suppress supply of illicit alcohol in order to complement the ongoing national operation to tame drugs and substance abuse aimed at liberating thousands of young people misled by unscrupulous drug dealers. Beatrice Kageha, Lookuptv.
Let's bring you up to speed on what the government is doing to come and get your money. Now, if you're Kenyan living abroad and you want to register your kid as a Kenyan, because the constitution does allow the dual citizenship, you have to part with 1 million shillings. All right? Now, marriage at the Attorney General's office has been increased from 5,000 shillings to 50,000 shillings. It's no longer a walk in and walk out, as majority of you essentially before this called it. Number 3, a marriage certificate now after you're married. Remember, the 50,000 is for you to be given those services, yeah? So once you sign and you want the marriage certificate, it's now been increased from 30,000 to 100,000. Doesn't stop there. Now, if you lose your ID today, remember to replace it previously was just 100 shillings. Today, if you pick your abstract and then stick with the abstract, go get your new ID, you have to part with 2,000 shillings to replace it. Now, for those who are getting it afresh, right? This is your first time you're going out to seek your ID or your Huduma number for that matter, or what they call Maisha number. You have to part with 1,000 shillings. Now, somebody online has looked at this case and said, now you see how majority of us have been saying no to those marriage WhatsApp groups there. If you're added into one, please contribute, because somebody somewhere needs 100,000 shillings for that certificate of marriage. Oof, a lot that we're essentially going to look at this morning, in as much as the impeachment proceedings of Kawira Mwangaza are concerned. There's also a man who's on the spot again, Moses Kuria. This time around has roughed senators in the building, and majority of them have said they want to support his impeachment motion, and they're calling for the National House to actually start those proceedings. And they said they're calling him an embarrassment to President Dr. William RUTO. That plus much more, especially looking forward to that presidential address. We're going to touch on some of the issues that we're going to look at that today. You can join us online and Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Simba. I say Prof in the building. So shortly after this, we get into our big conversation. Good morning.
Introducing the Kenya Trade Fair Fusion Sales Drive event in the heart of Nairobi at the Kenya National Archives. It's not just an event, it's sales generation with a remarkable return on investment. Get ready to let your booth do the talking as you study new market trends with lots of entertainment featuring traditional live bands, DJs and artists. For vendor registration, call 0724-715-334 or 0713-907-584 or 0723-861-173.
Majina yangu ni Julius Kimalu kutoka Wangige. Sunday nilipigwa na tatu nikaenda huko.
Uko tayari Julius? Tuzungushe. Twende lalo Julius.
Mpatie.
Sitaki change. Mimi nataka ubaki hizo pesa.
Mpatie Julius pesa kidogo.
Kweli. Julius, nakuuliza tena umeshinda pesa ngapi
Julius?
6,000.
Julius.
Nakuuliza tena Julius, kwa mara ya mwisho umeshinda pesa ngapi?
6,000.
Julius, umeshinda 100,000 Kenya shillings.
Nilifurahia sana, hata nikaambia Mungu ni asanti, sababu hata talipa school fees. Sasa watoto hawatafukuzwa na ingine tuweke biashara. Nikaambia Mungu ni asanti, na hakika nikaona ukweli, tatua ni ya ukweli.
Sijawahi sita, hii ilikuwa mara ya kwanza kushinda. Nyinyi wa Kenya, tatu ni ya kweli. Na kila mtu acheze, bahati yako inaweza kuwa hapo. Na ucheze mara mingi na mingi.
Over 18s only. Gaming can be addictive. Play responsibly. This message has been approved by the BCLB.
Are you looking for an office space? 4th Avenue Towers is a professionally designed 25-story executive office that is conveniently located at the heart of the Medical and Legal Services Square within community area. The office is easily accessible from both Valley Road and Ngong Road. professionals and business people now have the opportunity to own a premium piece of office space, the optimum choice for the modern professional. Key utilities include 24-hour security with CCTV surveillance, high-speed internet access, ample and secure parking, high-speed elevators, power backup generator, open rooftop, and a restaurant. 4th Avenue, an amazing product of Fusion Capital. Fusion Capital, rooted in the African growth story.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your #1 show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Let's go. Let's go.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lelima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lelima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
It is that simple then. The president today is going to address you. Is a second State of the Nation address. If you do remember, his first one was when you guys were going for Christmas last year. I was just 2 months of him being in office, isn't it? Spoke to you, wished you a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2023. So he's been in office now for quite some time. Today, he's coming to talk to you, number one, on the achievements of his government so far. Number two, on issues around security in the country. That is according to the minority whip in the National House, that is Osoro, when he was speaking about what the president was going to talk about. Number three is plans as we draw to the end of 2024. And partly in that, he's also going to talk about how the country has gone down, especially on issues around borrowing and the economy. So national debt and taxation. We're going to talk about that. Of course, in honesty, I've spoken to one of our reporters, Henry Tende, who was actually here. So probably in between this broadcast then, we're going to speak live to Henry Tende on the ground as we get ready then for that presidential address that majority of Kenyans are looking forward to. And just like we spoke about it yesterday, is that majority of Kenyans have been talking that the crowds that were singing tunes of President RUTO during his campaigns are not singing his tunes anymore. That every time he speaks, there are a couple of moments within his promises that are currently ongoing as well. His latest promissory notes coming from his visit in Coast. Just before we get there, I want us to talk about exactly what happened yesterday. Kawira Mwangaza is officially now, again, been reinstated to be the governor of Meru County. She essentially beat that impeachment process that went down yesterday. Prof is in the house. Prof, how are you doing, sir?
Thank you, my brother.
All is good, yeah?
Very well.
We're going to talk about the presidential address. Even today, as we talk about it, there have been big announcements, again, that have been made by the Ministry of Interior in terms of the charges that are levied across various services. This, we talk about it, Prof, knowing very well that, again, 18% VAT is coming in 2024 January.
Yes.
Yeah? So we put that on the side. Let's talk about Kawira Mwangaza.
Yeah.
The senators looked at her case and they said, well, this is not proper evidence. There is nothing that we can listen to here. So the issues of nepotism, the issues of abuse of law, the issues of misuse of county funds, the issues of appointment of people who are not qualified to take over offices. There was even a CEO in all of the boards that Kawira Mwangaza essentially started in the county who came in and said, well, I don't do that job, but I draw salary. The senators looked at it, said, no, she's got to go back to office.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, my brother Simba, there are some questions that if they're asked at the heaven's gate, you might go to heaven. And there are some questions, if it's the question to answer at heaven's gate, you might go to hell.
Yes.
If they ask that, did Simba have good intention in his life, you might go to heaven. But if they ask that, did Simba ever sin, I'm sure, my brother, all of us will go to hell.
Yes.
And in fact, that's what is the issue, framing. What was the framing of the issue in Senate? The framing of the issue was a political question. It was not a legal issue. And when the framing is legal, then, of course, it's not have to go to the Senate. That should go to judiciary. If they send something judicial, so all those things about he flouted, they can still sue the governor. There's even attorney general in the counties these days. You can sue the governor for anything legal he has done. Impeachment is always a political process. Yes. And so far as Kenya Kwanza was divided inside themselves, with Azimio having a significant number, Azimio was obviously going to go on the side that might make to disappoint the more superior side. And that's what happened. For example, you realize I told you that we discussed here that we said it here that Mwangaza won't be impeached. Reason being, just those dynamics. So long as Senate remains what it is, the Constitution now, it won't happen. And remember now, Mount Kenya is divided. Mm-hmm. Majority of the senators are coming from Mount Kenya. That division itself is enough to ensure that one side goes with the azimio side and the prayers are done. For example, you see the Finance Act was Raila Odinga versus William Ruto. The voting was not about the substance. That's why you see MPs later, after passing the bill, goes to State House and telling people, cut fuel. Yet are the people who passed the bill to increase the cost of living. So you will see that now it was not an economic question in Parliament. It was a political question in Parliament instead of being an economic question. Finance Act should be economic question. Remember, Simba and people's economist and understand how economy affects people, anything you do. And just to give you a background, when I used to be an economist with a bank, I was an economist with Housing Finance Bank. I was an economist with the World Bank, also IMF, also European Central Bank. When it is raining, like now, you see this rain you're seeing, can you be able to predict the economic implication of this rain? Or you are just seeing rain being a nuisance? So for us, when it was raining in Mount Kenya region, you could set interest rate based on that rain. If it could rain on the Rift Valley, we know that's the bread basket of Kenya. Because people Rift Valley, they are producers of food. So you could say now, because we are going to have ndomas here, we're going to have potatoes here, the people who are lending money should lend money more to the potato farmers, and we should set interest rates like this and that. So whatever you are seeing, framing is important. If you frame that is Elijah, Simba Elijah, a good news anchor, the question will be different if you ask whether you are knowledgeable in terms of economy. So the thing here is that the framing of the question of Mwangaza made has survived, and it is nothing to do with wrongdoing or non-wrongdoing. The issue was that it was more a political question. Then secondly, now, this for me is the implication. Because sometimes when you hear the story, you should look at what's the most important story. All the MCAs in Meru voted, all of them in unison, to impeach the governor twice. And the Senate, we do not live in Meru, says no. So the question is, are the MCA still the representative of Meru people? Or the Senate has a say over the issues in Meru? Is it still devolution? If the national, this is a national house, isn't it, rules over a devolved unit. So everyone, we should be believing that everyone in Meru should be wanting Kawira Mwangaza out, because MCAs are elected by the people of Meru. And they have done twice, and it has worked, it has not worked. So is it a question of accept and move on? Because that's what will happen. For example, if you have done this twice and it has failed, accept and move on. The only thing is that the issues have been the same. They just regurgitated. That's why I'm telling people need to be clever here. It's Solomonic. Mm-hmm. They regurgitated the issues they brought before. They didn't come with any other new issue.
Yes.
Which means that this is just witch hunt. And according to me, yes, the survival of Kawira Mwangaza is a political issue, but it's also a statement. That is there's an ongoing battle between county assemblies and the executive in the devolved unit of government. So I think that's what Senate is trying to save the governors against this battle. That's the main thing. They discovered that the MCAs are trying to look for ward fund. They're looking for salary increment. Mm-hmm. They're looking for tenders in government, because I can tell you some counties where MCAs have no issue. What was difficult for Kawira Mwangaza? Take this guy to Seychelles for 1 week and they don't impeach you. But she decides to deliver for the people, and therefore the MCAs are feeling disgruntled because they need money. Let me tell you what, where money is involved, issues are very different. So yes, I'm thinking that for me is a statement. In fact, it is also a statement across the whole country. The statement the Senate has done. You cannot just come here thinking that by uniting yourself in unison works. Look at Siaya County. All the MCAs, to the last man, wanted to impeach the deputy governor. Senate saved it. That's one statement. Now you see the one of Kawira Mwangaza, that's another statement. If you are another MCA in another county in Nyeri, will you try? You believe that you have to start by realizing, will the Senate agree? Because you'll shame yourself. Because look here, tomorrow, I'm saying Governor Waira signed some checks that go to the Senate, the MCAs. When you go to office tomorrow and you are the one saying I'm impeaching you, how does it look? For me, I'm trying to realize that now time will come that before you even consider putting impeachment motion at the county assembly, you need to get some kind of mobilization from the Senate. And if the Senate will disagree with you, don't start, because they said, Jesus says in the Bible, before you go for war, isn't it? You have to check the military of the other opponent, check whether you can overcome it. Before you start building a house, you have to know that you have all the resources, or else you'll be laughed at. So this is what the MCAs have put themselves into shame. Now the question is, there are two things which will happen. Now politics, very important. Will the governor come back in 2027, or the MCAs will come back? Because that is the thing. They can't come, both of them. You understand? If the people of Meru are with the MCAs, the governor will go home very early in the morning. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. But if the people are with the governor,
yes,
those MCAs are not coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to open you to an analogy that we met yesterday for the very first time. Prof, if you look at national politics and county politics, in fact, they have the same pattern, where we do know how a particular county is going to vote. We do know how nationally the pattern is. In fact, you can actually say, well, the national pattern right here is exactly what you are going to take into the counties.
Yeah.
Now, Kawira Mwangaza comes from a region that is predominantly government, that is UDA.
Yeah.
Are we going to imagine then a scenario where a governor is going to be independent? Does it make it hard for a governor to be independent in the current political pattern in the country? Is that the only reason Kawira Mwangaza is finding trouble?
Yeah, we said it here with you, that Kawira Mwangaza is a victim of her own independence. First of all, we have to remember, whom was Kawira Mwangaza running against? They were well-established forces. They are very strong within UDA. At the same time, you have to understand that the independent candidate thing, how many governors are independent? I think I know two at the moment. I know the governor of Taita Taveta, and then I know Kawira Mwangaza. I don't know any other governor who is independent. So two governors are independent. The one on the other side is an opposition stronghold. She has no issues that Kawira Mwangaza has. And of course, I think William Ruto would prefer that the governor of Meru almost talks directly to her, but I don't think this is the case. If she was to go with her people to State House and say, Mr. President, we want to work together, isn't it? You'll see a totally different thing.
Yes.
But the problem she's having is not just the issue coming from a ruling party stronghold. The problem is that Mount Kenya, for the first time, has no kingpin. And then the supposed kingpins are still looking for kingpinship. Remember the very nice comment Mr. President made in State House when the king was there.
Yes.
That the king, you know, in Kenya we are having what's called bat fighting for kingpinship. And then he says, today, the real king in the house, so that competition has been suspended for a while.
I do remember that quote.
Do you remember that quote?
I do remember that quote, yes.
So the kingpinship in Mount Kenya, people are still fighting for it.
Yes.
So she's not just that victim. She's also a victim whereby who will call the shots. I know kingpin normally find a strategy to become a kingpin. For example, if there's one person who wants to impeach Governor Mwangaza and marshals the whole Mount Kenya and coordinate with the Senate to impeach her, that person might become a kingpin. But for now, that has not happened. You saw Moses Korea is trying it. Rigathi Gachagua is trying it. None of them is getting anywhere. Ndindi Nyoro is not trying directly because, there's the Ameru and the Agikuyu, and you don't want Agikuyu to try to interfere with. So the Mount Kenya politics is very complex. Remember, Kibaki inherited this as a unit. The Uhuru Kenyatta was able to inherit as a unit. Jomo Kenyatta, for lack of another reason, there was no any other person who was emerging from there, but there are a few people also came in to support him. So it is still difficult to find someone who can marshal this as a unit. But also you have to understand how Mount Kenya kingfish is normally made. You know, Kibaki was a finance minister. Kikuyus generally are people who are very entrepreneurial, very industrial, and they got a very good economist who was able to understand. And then Kikuyus thrive because Kibaki came with very good economic policies that made them work. So they embraced Kibaki, not because Kibaki is a king, Kibaki is a poor politician, but they embraced him because he had very good economic policies as a finance minister, so they could easily embrace him. Look at Rigathi Gachagua. You tell me if Kikuyu businessman will resonate with Rigathi Gachagua, it will be very hard because Rigathi Gachagua has never run any business. You tell me which business is run. Kibaki was a finance minister. The Kenyatta family were known as business people. They have been, Uhuru Kenyatta was also a finance minister. He also came with some financial policies that benefited the people of Mount Kenya.
Yes.
But Rigathi Gachagua finds himself vice president with no portfolio. All of a sudden, he wants to be a kingpin. It is a difficult thing to. Yes. I think the issue is the two things: ruling party, independence of Kawira Mwangaza, and then lastly, the issue of not having a kingpin. Because let me tell you what, look at the governors that survived before. Waiguru. Do you know how Waiguru survived when she was about to be impeached with the issue of corruption?
Yes.
That time, there was a kingpin called Uhuru Kenyatta. And then she went to Raila. I know Raila was Uhuru's candidate. So with the dalliance with Raila, Raila just told Uhuru, let her survive. And she did survive. The only thing is that after later, now she switched to UDA, which is a betrayal to Raila. But nevertheless, a kingpin is important during impeachment. If you go to areas like, let's say, Luo Nyanza, this one, the guy survived because of the fact that Raila is a kingpin, or Luo survived because Raila is a kingpin, and the framing in the Senate was that they want to disappoint the Raila thing and Orengo thing, and they just went against it. So this thing is a very dicey thing. Yes. It's always a political process, and politics takes center stage.
Yes.
If it's illegal, then you should just go to judicial.
That's it.
Yeah.
So just Fanyamambo, good morning, sir. I've just seen you walking this morning.
Very good morning to you, the both of you.
I want to rope you into this conversation. I'd like my director to actually just flash the headline for the Daily Nation. The Daily Nation went ahead to call Kawira Mwangaza, again, a survivor. Special headline in this sense. It was actually a one word, and this was the saying that she put on her defense of a two-day Meru governor, Kawira Mwangaza, denied all 7 allegations leveled against her, citing political witch hunt by local leaders under the orchestration of external forces. And a majority of senators cast their votes with her, earning the battled governor a lifeline and a chance to continue serving as county chief. But senators fault both the executive and the county assembly. That's what the story is. Let me start for like this. Is it a wrong headline in this sense? I mean, it's not the very first time Kawira Mwangaza is facing this. It's the second time. And if you look at the pattern of voting, it's like every time she gets to the first time she got to that 11-member committee, every other person say, well, these charges are just stupid. This is not something that we can hear. If you look at majority of the senators yesterday as well, they looked at it, they said, well, thrashed out all the evidence against her. Well, will you call her a survivor? Fanyamambo? I don't think so.
Thank you. I think the problem is not where she is at Senate.
Yes.
The problem is, where is Kawira Mwangaza going back to? Has she thought about that? Because you survived Senate, yes? But you have how many MCAs voting against you?
All of them.
How many governors, how many former governors, and how many leaders? Even the Venturing Njeka in Meru has pronounced itself. So she's going back to a very acerbic working condition and environment.
Yes.
Will she deliver for the next 2.5 years? It's impossible. It's practically impossible. I think some fights are not worth fighting. Because sometimes when you get to a place where, okay, you've survived Senate, and then you go back, that county assembly is supposed to vote for every bill and to vote for every money that you propose as a governor. Do you think they will vote? How is she going to survive the next 2 years? How is Meru going to be run for the next 2 years? Because there's a lot of hostility within Meru itself. So Senate should have looked at that and asked themselves, okay, let us give her a new lease of life. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But when she goes back, how will she work? Is there anything that will happen in Meru? These people have already told you to your face. And you know, after they voted, you saw the celebration they had in Meru town, the MCAs. And you saw what the things they said about her. You have seen what has been going on national television, including one cabinet secretary fighting Kawira Mwangaza openly. And now she's at a place where she's going back to those very people and she's supposed to work with them. I don't think it's going to be possible. So what will happen is we shall have chaos in Meru for the next 2.5 years. No, actually, for the next 4 years.
Yes.
It will just be a chaotic county where things will not run smoothly.
Yes.
And I would not be surprised if these people try to show Senate that who are you and impeach, because the law again doesn't stop you from impeaching as many times as you want. So they'll probably try to impeach her again. What will happen? That impeachment law needs to be looked into.
Yes. In that particular conversation, Fanyamambo, in that political conversation, and let me just give you, sort of bring to your attention a report, a poll that was actually run by the Infotrack research company. When they were rating the top performing governors in the country, Kawira Mwangaza was in the top 10 at 63%. The leading governor was at 70%. That is the likes of Gladys Wanga. I mean, in that rating, Fanyamambo, you would like to think that a performing governor would essentially perform in all the spheres of the county, political sphere and also development perspective. But is she failing to do politics in a county, knowing very well that her seat is very political as it may?
I don't know who advises Kawira Mwangaza, because they started by advising her to name some roads after her husband and then a few other, I don't know. And also I told you Infotrack, I always have my reservations with them because we in Azimio listened to them. We didn't even have it. We decided not to even to have polling agents in the stations because the percentages they were giving us were so beautiful and dicey that nobody thought that things would go any different from what they said.
Yes.
So don't be so excited about what Infotrack says. Though there's a grain of truth to it, because like Gladys Wanga is a favorite wherever she is. People can see her work. It's a beautiful piece of work. But I think Kawira Mwangaza is just in an awkward place. I only know if I was a leader myself, I would just resign. Because this kiti ni ya wananchi. Why are you forcing yourself on them? If you got into a place where it's become too toxic and you can't work with people, why do you keep forcing? You know the problem with this country, this is the only place people don't retire, they don't resign. This country, you can be given a docket and everything goes wrong. Completely, anything that could go wrong goes wrong. But you are there, you're not resigning, you'd rather die. You impose yourself on people. You finish one term and then you're still fighting for a second term and people are looking. I have seen MCAs and MPs. Some of these people are so rogue, but they keep changing parties, they change colors, they change everything. They keep forcing themselves on wananchi. Wananchi do not want them. I don't even think the people in Meru, because even when you see these politicians addressing people, they are addressing the Meru constituents. And the Meru constituents were also celebrating. So if I was the governor, I would tell them, you know what, in
this respect, just before I cross over to Prof. Fanyamambo, in this respect, who is saying no to Kawira Mwangaza? Is it the people or is the MCAs who are saying no to her?
Whom do the MCAs represent? They represent the people. And I think if she went, you see, all these leaders at some point have been elected by people. Mm-hmm. And all these leaders represent people in some way or the other. And besides, let's even imagine the people are with her. How will you work? Because those people will not be coming to the county assembly. There's one thing I want you to understand. For any money, for any bill, for anything to go through at the county assembly, and no, you cannot spend public money unless it's voted for at the National Assembly or at the county assembly. You can't.
Yes.
The people who she's relying on to vote are these ones. Now, these people were already making pronouncements and saying that they want her deputy to become governor. That's what they were saying everywhere they were going. So she already has now a strained relationship with the deputy. You can't even send your deputy to a place and tell him, go do this for me. Because this deputy was already preparing to be governor. Maybe at Alkwame prepare acceptance speech. Now, you've come from that place. Now, every other person surrounding you, the Nchurinjeke, the CSS from Meru, nobody is in a... And those are the people who are able to come to the county assembly. Let me tell you, hata saa hii ukitaka kwenda pale Nairobi County Assembly, the kind of security they've put around that place so that you don't come and see the speaker, the deputy speaker, whoever. Even seeing a director of planning here is a problem. And that happens within every other county. So this Mwananchi will never be able to access that place. So Kawera will be an island in a very toxic place for the next 4 years.
Yeah. Prof, a very interesting conversation that Fanyamambo is introduced here, that fine,
Yeah.
you vilified her.
Yeah.
You've told her, go back. We think that you're the governor. But where is she going back to? I mean, all the MCAs voted, we don't want her for the second time. Are they not just going to embarrass her when she goes back to the county government, Prof? That environment. I mean, did the senators miss a point? You got to look at that. If all of them are saying no, Prof, I will not, if you're my friend, I will not want to send you back to that environment. I will tell you, Bwana, hapo itakuwa ngumu.
I see this, these things has happened before in Rome.
Yes.
Remember the speech by McAntony? When they had, I don't know who was killed, then he had to make a speech. And no one wanted to listen to him. They said that you are a killer. Brutus was killed, isn't it? Brutus was killed by the Roman Empire, and he had to make a speech, and Brutus was loved by everybody.
Yes.
And Brutus made a speech that made the whole Romans change their mind. This is the moment Mwangaza actually needs to come up and say, if I was her, as the president is doing the state, the state address of the nation, I would also address the Meru people and make it live and make everyone know why am I back and what do we need to do and what do you need to focus. If you try something twice and has failed, some people change their mind.
Does it?
Yeah, so many people, not everybody likes me, not everybody likes you, Simba. But sometimes they say, okay, let's make do with what we have. I'm thinking the people Meru are the people who need to make their mind, not her.
Yes.
Because if they continue resisting her, in the end of the day, she's a governor. She's earning her salary. In the end of the day, if there's no help for Meru people, it is them to suffer. For me, I always want to make up my mind on where does it leave the common man and woman. Do you know, Simba, if you read the Bible very clearly, the Bible is always towards the weak person. The Bible is always towards the vulnerable person. Even if you go to Matthew 5, if you go to Matthew 7:7, look at the issue is knock you shall get. Mm-hmm. Look at the story. Jesus says that if a son asks for fish, he cannot be given a snake. Go also to the point whereby there's a king who was looking for, there was a woman who was looking for justice from the king, and he said that she asked the king, and the king eventually said, okay, I'm tired. What do you want? Take it. Jesus talks about a story of you sleeping, and somebody without unga is knocking. They say, you're disturbing, I'm asleep. So the person knocks until you can't sleep. A whole king wakes up to give justice by knocking. So the Bible and even God is always about the weaker person, because the stronger person can take care of themselves. MCS can sort themselves out, isn't it? They have a salary. The governor has a salary. Senators have a salary. What about someone in Meru who only relies on a decision that can be made right or wrong by the governor so that either they can live or die? Let's look at it that way. Even this can be the main conversation across this country. Who is the weakest person? Now, yes. I can tell you this, because I'm sure you might be saying Fred is just talking. I'll give you one thing I've done. When I was academic director in Strathmore, during COVID-19, when COVID hit, we were told to close the university. Means that, no, we have a restaurant, which is the best income generating activity in Strathmore. Mm-hmm. It was the best because we have students who are eating there. So we had waiters, waiteresses, we have chefs, we have everything. Then you have cleaners who clean even the ceiling, everything. There are very many staff members there, even the watchmen and the rest. So we're told, in a meeting. I was a director, so we're in the top level management. I was told, Professor, let's look for how to cut all these things. Everybody's going home. Even as we are going home, we don't know what's our fate. School fees may not be paid because students are not in school. So I told them, guys, let's look at this. Between the head and the leg, which one is more important? Of course, the head here means, I don't mean that the brain, I just mean the head. The leg stands here. Our legs are these people. So we agreed, us at the top, to take a salary cut, directors. We had to take what we call salary delay. We delayed our salary for some months to keep the people down at work, not at work, but earning salary. So waiters went home, they were not doing any service because no one to serve, but they were earning their salary. The cleaners were not cleaning anything, but they were at home, but earning their salary, the watchmen, everyone. So I was being told, Professor, is this really reasonable? I said, yeah, it is, because if you keep those people at work, it's easier to come back and run the school. But if you throw them out, it's harder. But lastly, they have no option. For me as a professor, I teach in class, but I can also do consultancy. So the weak person must always be looked at. Whenever you are making any decision, even here at Lookuptv, look at who is most vulnerable, who seem not to have options. Take care of that person first. So for me, in this whole scenario, impeaching the governor and the rest, I'm focusing on who will die of hunger, of disease, if we are focusing on governor. Governor was rich, he has a husband. I don't think there's something to lose. She can resign and go home. But then, is that deputy governor capable of doing something different in this account assembly? If the MCs, whom you know are very hungry for money and deals, come over and replace her with another person who was not supposed to be elected. In fact, the governor and deputy governor were voted in one ticket. They should go home together. As soon as this lady goes home, that deputy governor should go home. There should be election. So according to me, if you ask me, the person who suffers most is the weakest person. And that is the mama mboga, the boda, isn't it? The common man or woman who are going to suffer because these guys are fighting for money. I can tell you, MCS, one, are idle.
Yes.
Secondly, they are not as competent even to know their role. Thirdly, they are selfish. Remember, Meru is that county where in my culture we call mwosho moja. Unanawa mara moja unakula na hiyo ndio chakula yako. So mostly in Meru, senators, the MCs don't go back. So these guys know that they only have this 5 term to make money and then go home. Like in my, if you go to my ward in Ugenya, there's never been anyone who has come back. You wash her, unaenda. In fact, the person who takes over is the nominated MCA. He comes also as MCA, anaosha, anaenda. So it is the same thing these guys know. MCS don't tend to come back because they have no money to spend, because they promise people, nitajenga barabara naona budget. There's no ward fund, there's nothing. So they don't come back mostly. MPs tend to come back because of CDF. Governors tend to do the 2 terms because they have access to resources to keep them. So what I'm trying to say here is that let us consider this thing. But I want to slightly disagree with the Fanyamano Famamanjo. We are together. I'm sure one day we shall be in government together, Fanyamambo. But the analysis about the MCS is that I can tell you, I don't think the people of Meru are with MCS. And I was telling you before he came that if the people of Meru are with the governor, those MCS are not coming back at all, not even one, isn't it? And if the people of Meru are with the MCS, the governor will go home very early in the morning. And any other person supporting, whether you are a CS for Meru supporting governor to go home, if people believe her delivery, remember, numbers don't lie. It's good to say that Azimio was relying on Infotrack. Infotrack was accurate. Let me tell you what. But Infotrack was giving you that people are with you. But whether you convert those people into votes in the ballot, that's another story. That's why Azimio missed it. Because if you don't have agents, isn't it? Secondly, 800,000 votes in an opposition area was sleeping in the mattress. Luo Nyanza did not take 8,000 votes. 800,000 votes. If you are my opponent, Simba, the best way to beat you is that anywhere people hate you, I must ensure there are more people turning out to vote. Where they like you, I should lower the turnout. But what happened for opposition, in the areas where they were liked, turnout was low.
Yes.
In the areas where they were hated, turnout was high. Look at Bungoma, the turnout was quite high, isn't it? Kakamega, where they were liked, the turnout was low. Mombasa, turnout was low, but they were liked in Mombasa, isn't it? We go to Kisumu. Kisumu, over 320,000 votes slept, was not done. So according to me, Azimio did not do the last mile. Remember, to win even if it's a race. Do you see athletes even throwing their head at the ring when they're finishing? Why are they doing that? But for you, I saw this guy celebrating already in Karen with whiskey, taking glasses. You don't celebrate what you have not gotten.
That's it.
So according to me, Azimio, leave them for another story. But the truth of the matter, if you go to Meru, I think that the governor has performed, has delivered. She is with the people.
Yes.
Remember that time, in fact, the war she was being fought was when she was being found, the day she was being arrested. She was with the people. I believe people are with her. But the MCAs are looking for money. They know they are not coming back.
That's it. Fanyamambo, I know you don't like talking about this man. I want to ask you about what he did on Tuesday. Moses Kuria again came hitting. Fanyamambo he doesn't like wasting time talking about Moses Kuria. It's like stop. All of a sudden now, he infuriated the senators when he essentially said, do not impeach Kawira Mwangaza, sort of threatening them and telling them, if you do that, we are looking at you. All the senators, including the majority whip, they stood up and said, this one has got to go. Do you believe that finally the president, who you said, well, you're talking to the wrong man. I mean, talk to the president, is the one who's giving me this job. Do you believe that finally even the president can rally behind sending Moses Kuria home?
What is he doing occupying public office? Let's start there. What is he doing occupying public office? If you want to heal this nation, if you want to build this nation, and you go to a market where you have Professor here, and so many other good brains that sit on this show, and all over the place, and you just decide to settle for Moses Kuria, and then you want us to discuss him. What's wrong? Why are we discussing him? There were better brains at Strathmore University of Nairobi. Even on the streets, you'll find people who carry themselves with a lot more decorum and respect for other human beings. Forget even about education. Just respect for other human beings and not speaking vulgar. And knowing that this is a public office and you're a servant. You're not a lord over the people. I have always said I'll never waste a minute discussing that person. He's not worth our time. He's not worth public office. He's not supposed to be there. Simply because of ethics and morality. Mm-hmm. Forget even about education qualifications. We have seen people who are not as educated as he is, but they are humble and respectful. And there are things you do not say in a place where you know when you talk about urinating in someone's gate, and that message will go to a child, a grandmother. You know when you speak on public, when you speak on media, that message is received by generations from the smallest to the oldest. So you're teaching the young ones that a time will come when you're cabinet secretary and you can go and talk about, urinating at someone's gate, and this person is a 90-year-old granny who is the mother of every person. I usually say, Mama Ngina, to every person in Kenya, she's either a mother or a grandmother or a great-grandmother at 90. Na huyo mama hajaisimama mahali akatukana mtu. So when you start saying such things, and Moses Kuria has said many other things that I cannot, even look at his Twitter handle. You look at his Twitter handle and you wonder, is this a cabinet secretary?
Yes.
Or is this someone who lives on the streets, high on something, like a kite all the time? I think he's not worth our time. He's not worth our conversation. This is a person who should have been dismissed a long time ago.
He doesn't want to say. Can we go on a tiny breather, Prof? Yeah. Once we come back then, that's where the real conversation then this morning begins. I did see our reporter, Henry Tende, in a suit. I've never seen that man in a suit, only when he goes on air. as Tim Modi was doing, told me, well, we're going to the State of the Nation address, by the way, which will start any time this morning, and we shall be right here then to listen in and talk about it. It's a good thing that Fanya Mambo and Prof are here. We do know what the president is going to talk about. But even before that, we do understand that even when it comes to the cost of living, the cost of doing business in this country, it's already been impacted as well. Now, we do know a couple of services have been adjusted upwards. So we're going to talk about that shortly once we come from this break. And once we come as well, the question will be, how does the president move forward? Because every time now he goes on stage, you guys have been murmuring, and the murmurs are getting louder and louder, even to the members of parliament within Kenya Kwanza government, who yesterday told the president, maybe, Buana, remove some of these levies on fuel, because our constituents, they're making so much noise. Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift, my name is Simba. Elijah Charles, can I get talk to us at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms? The hashtag Morning Drift.
Nestled in the quiet and serene neighborhood of Makutano, just 2.8 kilometers from the Tarmac Road lies Alpha Meadows. This is a controlled gated community where you can build your city, home, or purchase for investment purposes. If you are looking for a place to call home, full of peace and quiet with magnificent views, then Alpha Meadows is that place. To book a plot, call 0723 979797 or visit us on 4th Avenue Towers along 4th Ngong Avenue off Bishop Road. Alpha Meadows is a product of Fusion Estates. Fusion Estates, your land ownership partner.
Once again, tuko hapa Angel Center for Abandoned Kids, all because of you.
My name is Catherine Wanjiru. I am the admin, Angel Center for Abandoned Children. Our founder is Wamaitha Mwangi. We currently have 64 children, 32 going to school, and among those 32, 2 are special children, and we are left at the home with 32. Now the toddlers and the infants. To the RUTO Foundation, thank you so much for remembering us. Guys, we lack words. We lack words. Amazing. We don't know what to say. Thank you for remembering us. You made a promise and you have delivered. And may God bless you. To my fellow Kenyans, as usual, cheza loto, sio ndoto. Angel Center tumeshinda loto.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the RUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba, Elijah Charles here again. Let's get into the bigger conversation then this morning, which is the President's address, which is coming by there shortly. And we shall be live. Our reporter Henry Tender already on the ground then to bring us up to speed with everything that is going on the ground. And once they start that event, then we shall be looking into some of the issues that the President would want to address today. Top on that is on the cost of living, areas in which is addressed in his government, on borrowing and debt, taxation regime in the country. You did see the other day when he was saying that he likes the conversation the majority of Kenyans are having around taxes. He said it is on the amount, and that's a good conversation for Kenyans to have this morning. As we start, some services again have been adjusted, not downwards, upwards from the Interior Ministry. Cases of your marriage certificates, ID replacements, registration of persons at the Immigration Department, you gotta pay more. This coming at a time when indeed the affairs within the Ministry of Treasury and National Planning, that indeed if the Israel-Hamas war continues, then a litre of petrol is gonna jump up to 300 shillings. Now, it is a very interesting address because every other time the President has been speaking to you nowadays, there's been a lot of mamas within the audience. The question being then to Fanya Mambo and Prof, what is the President going to talk about now that Kenyans do not want him to promise any further? Prof, what would he choose to talk on? Because on the cost of living, he's already said, on touching on some of the components like the cost of fuel, his hands are tied. Even his ministers or cabinet secretaries are not giving hope to Kenyans. They're just telling them, well, guys, tighten your belts. Things are going to get tough before they get better. What is the President going to talk about that majority of Kenyans want to hear today?
Actually, Simba just told you about the issue of framing. You know, I'm a governance expert, I'm an economist, but I'm also a decision-making expert. The most important thing to make a good decision is about framing. Like, for example, if you want to discuss an issue, if you frame the issue wrongly, you might find opposition. For example, you go to a medical doctor and they tell you, Simba, this medicine, there's 99% chance if you take it, you'll get well. Mm-hmm. That's one framing, isn't it? The other framing is that this medicine, if you take it, you have 1% chance of dying. Don't you think it's the same thing, but framing is different, and you'll feel differently about it? So the question is, what do the President ought to talk about? For me, this is what we need to discuss. Whatever he'll talk about already we know. He's going to defend everything he's doing and tell us how he's stabilizing the economy. We will know that. We know that speech. We know it. And according to me, what does the President ought to talk about? Not for us, Mimi and Fanyamambo, we are experts. What are the issues that are affecting Kenyans that need to talk about? And what is the solution we need to give? Because let me tell you what, Simba, before you even, I know you're an anchor, and as a decision-making expert, we don't like being anchored. You know, anchoring somebody to make them talk in a certain direction. First of all, I'll talk about 2 over 2. What are our 2 greatest enemies before we even talk about presidential speech? Our greatest enemy is, one, anybody telling you that our problem we have now began with Kenya Kwanza government. That's a lie. Our problem began in 1992.
Yes.
It was planted then. Because the guys who have been in governments from that time until now have been there. Since 1992, RUTO was in Youth for Kanu 92. Uhuru was there, Jirongo was there. You can name those people. Moi was there, Raila was there. All these guys were there. The second enemy is anybody who has been in government telling you that they have a solution which is better than what William Ruto is doing. That's another liar. Why? Let me give you just a scenario in 2008, because Kenyans were there, all young people were there, 2008. Who was the president? Mwai Kibaki. Who was the vice president? Kalonzo Musyoka. Now he's in Azimio, isn't it? Raila Odinga was the prime minister. Now he's in Azimio, saying Ruto is wrong, of course, isn't it? Martha Karua was minister, isn't it? Is now in Azimio. Musalia Mudavadi was deputy prime minister. Now he's government, isn't it? Wetangula was minister for foreign affairs. All those figures you're talking about inside and outside the government were inside the government.
Yes.
What have they received? Have they gotten a Damascus experience now that they know something different? Wajua, there's something Mwai Kibaki said one day, jamani, umekuwa hapa tu. Asasa kesho unasema jamani, ati kuna kitu unajua kutushinda. Kibaki ever said that thing one day. When he said, we sasa we unadhani tu umemuka tu mara moja pap, alafu kuna kitu umejua kutushinda sisi. Tumekuwa na wewe hapa. So what I'm trying to say, the two enemies are those who tell you our problems began now with Kenya Kwanza, and two, those telling you they have a solution, yet they have been inside government.
Yes.
Now, what is our two friends? Because when that's 2/2. Two friends, two enemies. Two friends are one, decency. Decency, as a head of state going to address people, are you going to be decent? Are you going to tell Kenyans the truth? Is the Kenyan debt true? How you're saying it? Because according to me, my friend Jim Wanjigi was also speaking at Spice FM. And he said that it's a sin of crime. Treasury is a sin of crime. I have gone to court challenging the debt in Kenya.
Yes.
And I told you here, Simba, that official debt according to appropriation in Parliament is 2.1 trillion. According to Treasury, it is 6.1 trillion. According to Kenya Kwanza government, according to State House, it is 9.2 trillion. Are those figures just error? Is it a coincidence? So, is the president going to say, guys, this is the secondly, why are we having this problem? We have a lot of illegal debts. So me as an economist, I expect the president to tell us that we have around something like 7 trillion illegal debt. Our official debt is 2.1 trillion.
Yes.
And I want him to declare that he won't pay them. Some of that debt has been borrowed at 50% interest rate. Now you tell me where you're getting your money. Are you getting them from the moon? That they should be 50% interest. So what I'm trying to say, should the president come and tell us the truth? Because in the book which I've just given you called Solomonic Economics,
yes,
they say world-class wealth begins with objective reality. Where are we as a country in truth? The president has borrowed 1.3 trillion. He has collected 3.6 trillion. That's 4.9 trillion. How have we used the money? Don't tell us how much you want to collect. So we expect the president to come with accountability. At the same time, we expect the president to own up to the things which have not worked, isn't it? Because in any way, we don't expect everything he promised to work. He's a human being, isn't it? And some things also has worked not because he did anything, and that some things have not worked not because of his own making. So can we come back and say, guys, this is where we are as a country, openly, and this is now want to move from where we are to where we want to go. If I want to direct you to Kenya Cinema and ask you, Simba, where are you? Then you lie to me that you're in Jogoo Road. Will I help you get to Kenya Cinema? No. So it's a national conversation by them telling fellow Kenyans, as your head of state, this is where we are. I suggest we need to go here.
Yes.
Can I hear any expert views? So today should be a day of national conversation about, are we in agreement that taxes should go up so that you can collect more? Is it true? Of course it's not, isn't it? Because people, when they campaign, they give us Singapore example, South Korea example, but after entering government, they give us the example of South Sudan, isn't it? DRC. Why don't you campaign and tell us, Kenyans, I want to take you DRC, so that we elect you knowing we are going DRC, not telling us about Singapore. But after I take over government, tell about DRC, we are not bad like Tanzania, we are better than Uganda, You know, those ones were not your benchmark when you are campaigning. We are benchmarking with Singapore. Remember, both Raila and Ruto benchmark with Singapore, isn't it? Why are they now telling us about Tanzania? Do you know Kenya is the worst in terms of ease of doing business in Africa? We have only beaten South Sudan, which is the youngest country in Africa. Now, Kenyans want to know ease of doing business.
Yes.
KRA harassment, where you have to open your bags, even if you carry samosa. Sometimes maybe you carry some things that only you want to know. Imagine, Simba, you travel with your father, your sister, your mother, and someone is opening your bag. You know, they might see some things that only God needs to know with you. You understand?
That's it.
So I'm trying to say we need to hear about that very clearly.
Yes.
Another thing I want to hear about is the president needs to be honest. The team he has around him has not helped him. Kibaki went into State House on a wheelchair, but mentally sound. He appointed, go look at Kibaki cabinet, Anyang' Nyong'o was there. Name those people. You can say there were people who can deliver.
Yes.
Tell me any equivalence of Anyang' Nyong'o in this current government. Uhuru had Professor Magoha in education, isn't it? This guy has Machogu in education. And education is not working. Are we seeing that there's obvious things? So the president needs to tell us that I have a team that can deliver. Can he honestly say that? Because you see, if you want to see, yesterday Arsenal won against Sevilla, isn't it?
Yes.
This team sheet showed that they could win, isn't it? And they won. Does the president give us the best team sheet? Fanyamambo has just asked, is Kenya lacking competence? Do you know Kenya has the highest qualified human resource in Africa, isn't it? While Kenya have the biggest challenges in economy. As an economist, according to Solomonic economic model, there's a correlation between knowledge and economic growth.
Yes.
Singapore has invested on high-end knowledge research centers and the rest. Singapore produces great minds that does public administration. Another point I have to ask, and I want to ask this, Mr. President, directly if you can hear me, because I won't bash you, I'm just giving you advice. Mm-hmm. If you really want to deliver to Kenyans, the fulcrum of public service is the Ministry of Public Service. If the worst person is in that government, you're not serious about service delivery. That's the fulcrum of the economy.
Yes.
So according to me,
yes,
put your best, the best of the best. Remember, Francis Mudaura was the head of public service under Kibaki. Tell me an equivalence of Francis Mudaura, both experience, knowledge, and educated. He launched a book the other day. He's my colleague, we've been doing training with him. Do you have an equivalence of Francis Mudaura heading public service? Under Uhuru was Kinyua. Joseph Kinyua was the head of public service. Now you have Moses Kuria. Just put the CV of Moses Kuria vis-a-vis the CV of Joseph Kinyua, vis-a-vis the CV of Francis Mudaura, and tell me what results you want.
Fanyamambo, here's a question. I mean, if you were the president today, just the other day, even members of parliament within UDA went and spoke to the president and told them, hey, on ground, things are really tough. Our constituents are making noise. Could you find a way of even cutting down on the cost of fuel in the country, at least now, for things to settle? And today at 2:30 p.m., the president is going to stand on the national stage and address Kenyans. I mean, if you're quite aware that Kenyans have been making murmurs, what do you want to choose to speak on today, Fanyamambo, if you were the president?
He has spoken on many things, including cheap gas that hasn't happened. So yes. I wouldn't care what the State of the Nation address is going to say. It mattered when people like Kibaki spoke, because they then follow what they are saying yes. and do it. We have an administration that says something different and does something extremely different. So I don't want to have, they started on a mantra of bottom up. And for sure, everything has come from the bottom going up, especially prices of commodities. My good friend, there's something we need to speak about, and that is what Kenyans are talking about. And when I told them I'm coming on TV, they told me that's what we want you to go and talk about.
Yes.
The cost of getting a passport has moved from 4,500 to 7,500. Now, constitutionally, a passport and an ID And by the way, if you lose your ID today, the cost of replacement is 2,000 shillings.
Yes.
And because we are about to send our policemen to Haiti, 1,000 of them, then there will be more insecurity. Kwa hivyo ngeta itapanda, the crime rate will go high and you lose more IDs and the government will make more money. I think it's a strategy. You first come and hike the cost of replacing your ID and then you take away 1,000 policemen so that you increase insecurity, so that watu wapigwe ngeta, so that you can collect more money from replacing the IDs that they are going to lose through the ngeta. I don't understand what is wrong with this administration. Think about it this way. Not everybody who picks a passport is picking a passport as a luxury. This government has failed to provide good medical care for Kenyans. So very many of them are in hospital beds planning to go to India. So there's someone who is looking for a passport literally to go for treatment. They have cancer of the liver and they are going to India. Why are you making it expensive for them to get that passport? Why are you making it impossible for this person to go to India and get treatment? Because now when you make a passport, which is a birthright, which is a document that you should have by right like a national ID, when you make it that expensive and compare ourselves with everybody else in the region, we are the most expensive in terms of travel documents. I wish we could use a Tanzanian passport to fly from here to another country, because then all of us would go and buy the Tanzanian passport or Ugandan passport. I think it's a high time we did the East Africa integration so that we have one passport for the region. Then we don't have a government that wakes up and decides that we can make money from passports. But having said that, I know it was informed by the fact that, you know, the Kindiki once declared Nyayo House a crime scene.
Yes.
And people were paying in excess of 20,000 to get their passport. So they discovered, oh, so Kenyans have got money for a passport. But it's desperation. The reasons Kenyans were paying that, as I told you, some of them are basically looking for a passport to go for treatment. And it's an emergency. Yeah. And so someone within the system lies to them that we can get it out within 24 hours. So they gave the money. But it's not because that money was lying idle in an account. They probably had to fundraise as a family. So this government needs to become sensitive about that. Now, I think I have a little piece of advice to Kenyans, and I'm going to look at that camera and advise them and tell them the following. You see, number one, if you have not, you know, we shall all die. Please go and get your death certificate today, kabla waongeze bei, because hiyo sasa itaongezwa bei. You'd rather have your death certificate in the house, and then when you die, they will write the date of death and the cause of death. And it will be very easy. You know, when we had COVID-19 happening, it was very easy to say that people have died of COVID-19. So the cause of death, if you die between now and when Kenya Kwanza leaves office, should just be said there was a calamity, there was a disaster, there was a catastrophe called the Kenya Kwanza administration, which is the cause of death of this person. So the bulk of people who died during this period died out of a malady, a catastrophe, a disaster that was called Kenya Kwanza administration, and the stresses and lifestyle diseases that come with having a bad administration. Yes. So we all just rush in there before they hike the price of the death certificate. I'm advising you, we all queue there, we pay, because we shall all die. We pay for our death certificate now that the prices are low. Just the same way you do with insurance, you keep it so that when you die, it will be given the date and time. If a marriage certificate can move from 1,000 shillings to 50,000 shillings overnight without public participation, which is a requirement of the Constitution, and without, I mean, who wakes up and decides that a marriage certificate can move from 1,000 shillings to 50,000 shillings?
Actually 100,000 now. 30,000 to 100,000.
Yes.
Age services 5,000 to 50,000.
Yes. And if a child is born abroad, well, and if a child is born abroad, yes, you have to pay for that child having been born abroad.
Yes.
This is the kind of madness I am saying. Kenyans need to start looking for those. And the death certificate was just an example. Kenyans need to start looking for those things that are about to hike in price with the Kenya Kwanza administration and get them now and keep them, because they will we are about, now the only thing remaining is what? Sleep tax. We are going to be taxed for sleeping, because they've taxed everything that you can imagine. Look at what is happening at JKI. You come there with a suitcase, they open, they are lifting your underwear like this, they're asking you, why are you carrying 5 instead of 3? This administration has become extremely insensitive to Kenyans and to the needs of its people. And we need to get to the point where we start saying that essential documents should not be a money-making stream for the government. The reason why people, for example, are looking for marriage certificates, it's for the simple reason that you want to protect the family unit in the case of a succession. Yeah, and even for those who haven't divorced, also take my advice. If you are planning to divorce soon, or maybe mumeanza kusumbuana na bibi, please rush there and ask how much is divorce. You pay in advance so that you just have your receipt kept at home, so that in case they increase the price, you'll have had it for the right price. We need to start anticipating these things where government could increase the price of anything, and you rush to that place, you tell the court, please, I have paid for my divorce fees just in case, so that I have paid at the rates that exist now. If I ever come in future, we'll just print out the certificate.
Does it?
Because I'll be leaving shortly.
Does it? Mm-hmm.
First of all, fellow viewers, and even for you, Simba, I think there's something we have to agree as a nation.
Yes.
That the government cannot fail today, and they should not fail today.
Yes.
You know, I like the sarcasm that you're bringing across. Nevertheless, let me tell you what we want to be in this government, and we want to take over this government and run it.
No, we don't want to be in this government.
No, I'm saying we want to take over a country and lead it.
Okay.
And because we want to lead this country, we don't want them to live as a country which is in the cemetery. So William RUTO must succeed right now. That's why I'm giving advice, because I love this country. And I like what you are trying to say, because those are the real issues that are affecting Kenyans.
Does it?
It is completely unreasonable, and there's no justification whatsoever in those increment of charges.
Yes.
But why are you seeing this increment? They have been trying many ways. Remember the other time Moses Kuria said, we'll be paying for services in Doma centers. Mm-hmm. And Kenyans went in uproar and say, no. Now what they have done, they have unofficially introduced them in the charges. So actually you are just doing what they wanted. And I remember there must be a manifesto that Kenya Kwanza campaigned on, and there must be a manifesto that they kept to implement. And I think they had manifesto B, which is the one they implement, because whatever they're implementing is not in line with their manifesto, because boda, mama boga cannot get married. Because forget about the issue of the cost of getting the certificate. You know, in Africa, you have to pay dowry.
Does it?
Isn't it?
Does it?
How much is a dowry? When I got married in Taita, they asked for $1 million. For example, if you go without your car Simba,
yes.
Wacha hiyo gari tutaenda tu na matatu.
Hiyo na tutatembea.
Yeah, tunatembea
kwanza kwa WhatsApp group. Yes. Hiyo 100,000 naona ni kama imeanza kutoka kwa dowry.
So if you pay dowry, you have able to treat all the family members, everything. You pay a meal. For example, in Taita Taveta, or Mine Taita people, you have to cook for them.
Does it?
You have to cook even if you go to Kambani, isn't it?
Yes.
So you add all those things plus 100,000 shillings, then no one can get married. Actually, you can only predict that only 10% of young people marry. And I'll give you some interesting statistics. In Japan, the government is saying that if you get married, if you have more children, they can give you some incentives. And the Japanese are not getting married because already they are saying there are too many rules in marriage. The costs are too high already that even that incentive does not make sense. There's no correlation between the incentives and people getting married or having children. So in Kenya, population growth is key for any economy. And if we are able to bring in the issue of marriage, which becomes more expensive, we shall have children born out of wedlock. And I'm sure the religious people need to listen to me carefully. Because then come we stay will be too much. And come we stay is not the best way to bring a family. I'm privileged to have grown in a family where there was a father and mother. I'm not saying that anybody who was not born that way is normal, but we cannot have policies that will encourage people not getting married. For example, the AG, you'll be done, you'll give some money, but for you to go to church, the marriage in the church has become more expensive than marriage at the AG.
It's actually true.
Are we really a religious nation? So William RUTO, Rigathi Gachagua, campaigned on the platform that they were very staunch Christians. And by making Christian or religious marriages more expensive than secular marriages, are you trying to drive Kenyans towards secularism? In Parliament, there's a bill, LGBTQ, saying that we are a religious nation, we should not have XYZ.
Yes.
Are we still, again, punishing someone for their religion? So atheists will have cheaper marriages, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Or secular people have cheaper marriages. religious marriage is more expensive, are we encouraging people? Because economics determines your behavior.
Yes.
For me, the fundamental of this thing is so deep that people can work. And that's why I was telling you, Simba. As an economist, people's economists, I say, before you pass a policy, you must model the financial model around it. You may find that people don't even want to associate now with families, because if I have a girlfriend who lives in Kawangware and me, I live in Kibera, we can agree that we father a child, we look after the child chini ya maji, no one knows we are meeting, isn't it? Because it's costly to be together. It is costly to be seen together. So we don't live together, but we find a way on which we can be cohabiting, isn't it? But living as sisters and brothers, but we have children. So we say, these are my niece, this is my nephew. Kenyans are very creative. They'll come with a way to handle that thing, but it won't be how society should be brought together. So me, I want to urge pastors, I want to urge religious leaders, please join us in this conversation under Linda Jamii, because this is a Linda Jamii initiative, to be able to educate the head of state to change these ways. And the last but not least, what I want to tell the head of state is this: if you can just sit down and add up all the costs that have gone up since you joined office, and there's a principle in life: you leave a place better off than you found it. This is simple. Like if you go to your house, if it's your mother's house, isn't it? When they give you coffee, you can't drink coffee and leave the tea on the table, spill the coffee. Kibaki left the country better than he found it. That's what all Kenyans will agree, isn't it? Now, about Uhuru, you'll say I'm biased because Uhuru was in Azimio, and I used to be in Azimio. But I think that if Ruto continues in this road, his legacy will be that he left the country worse than he found it. And the only person, remember, who has left the country worse than he found it is Moi. So then people try to look at his legacy and the legacy of Moi. So my urge to Kenya Kwanza government, we don't want it to fail. Every time when you sit in State House, there's the legacy of State House. That's why if I become head of state, I'll never make State House look so good that you can't see what's happening to people on the street. No, when you walk to State House, if you see the lagars of State House with the red carpet, and you think everything is red carpet, you might even forget where you're coming from. Me, I grew up in Ugenya, walking barefoot. The president should just come and walk on the street, and that's why guys are not happy. Me, I want to ask the president, go back to who brought you to State House.
Yes.
Listen to them, deliver to them. This will save you.
Yes.
But if you're coming to preach to us to justify why we need to follow you, and they know very well that you are taking us in the wrong direction, fire the Economic Council, reconstitute it, get the right advisors. Don't give excuses those near you, just do the right thing.
Pretty much. Prof, I know you want to step out, but we only have 5 minutes actually left. I want to take your sentiment on this. Fanyamambo, even as we say, well, it looks as if there's nothing that the president is going to talk about, what his government has achieved and what they exactly want to achieve. Over the past 1.5 years, is there anything that you can give the president and say, probably now, this we've seen it happen in the country? Fanyamambo, it can be 0%, can it be?
Oh, we've done a lot. I mean, how many travels in 1 year? No president has traveled that much. I mean, how much has been spent in State House in 1 year? No president has spent that kind of money. I think there are sometimes I sit and wish I could point to something. Tulifunguliwa borehole moja hapa Kandara. Then a lot of development projects somewhere else. I don't know. I think every time I sit and I try, there are times I consciously I sit here with Kenya Kwanza people and and I beg them, I tell them, just mention for me just one thing, I can go somewhere and say this administration yenyewe kuna kakitu kamoja kanaitwa fulani kamefanyika. Hata Hustler Fund, nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody. Just tell me somebody who talks about Hustler Fund. Something associated with Kenya Kwanza that you can come and point and say there's one beautiful, sensible thing. Even education has become worse. You know, there is this thing like you'd say under Kibaki, there was Michuki rules, something matatu. Every administration has got something. Like you see under Uhuru, watu wanaongeanga juu hii barabara imepita kwa hewa hata kama ilikuwa expensive. Unaongea juu ya SGR, unaongea juu ya Dongo Kundu. When you go to Kakamega, you're approaching Kakamega, it became something else. Approaching Kisumu became something else. The roads there. In fact, approaching Nakuru again, it's a dual carriage. There are things you can point to Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta that you can say, kuna hii, na hii, na hii. As you also talk about his mistakes, because he made a lot of mistakes. I want one I can point to. Hata niseme maybe they launched an aeroplane or a bus that goes from here to here. Something, because hata gas ili fail. You know, that's one of the easiest. There was electric bodabodas. Who speaks about them anymore? Then we have 2,000 of them, or we have 100,000 of them. Si kila mtu alipaki yake ya petroli. I am trying to look for one thing, and I'm looking for, and I beg them. Yes. I tell them, show me one that I can go to a TV station and say, since these people took office, there is this one thing that is golden that runs through. You know, talk even of opening one hospital. Just one. Tell me, tulikuja, there was no, we opened a hospital that was built by Kenya Kwanza from scratch. Or a dormitory. I am looking. Yes. I am desperately looking. Na mukipata moja, muniambie, ili nikienda kwa TV niache kuonekana mubaya napiga serikali. At least nikuwe nasema, there is one I was told by a certain guy, and I can be talking about it. But until then, yes, mine is to wait for the State of the Nation address. That's it. It will be another campaign platform. A lot of promises will be made. Yes. And I don't know why presidents make promises. You just need to read a speech, the way it's written, and say, God bless Kenya. That's it. But anyway, it is
Prof,
well.
I want to give you 2 minutes. And that's the last thing you're gonna talk about before then we step out. I mean, it can be zero. It can be zero, Prof. Is that one thing you're going to look at and say, maybe that I can give it to the Kenya Kwanza government, that the president can speak on this afternoon?
Well, what you can talk about is that Kenya is very visible.
Yes.
For good reasons, yes, bad reasons, story for another day. Remember that the president has hosted some dignitaries here.
Yes.
I don't know how much it has cost us, how much benefit we've gotten, but Kenya for sure is visible in the global map.
Yes.
Climate Summit in Africa, the first one in Kenya. You talk about the issue of hosting the King Charles. King Charles was here as the first visit to Commonwealth country was Kenya.
That's it.
So he has gotten some series of firsts. But the issue is, we are not just looking at what he has done, we are looking at the holistic picture.
Yes.
Things are good by analysis, but bad by synthesis. So by synthesis, the president needs to change the direction, and we are here to advise him. We are here to tell him the truth. So, for example, if you just increase taxes only and nothing else, that's fine. If you just increase cost of fuel only, nothing else is fine. Yes. If you only increase the cost of the charges for these documents only, then it's fine. But if you are increasing everything together, because there's a joke, I'll tell you an anecdote here. When I was in Spain, the Spanish people, the Spanish people are enjoyed for not liking to live in Germany. So that's why don't you guys like living in Germany? Because if you look at all Europe, the country where Spanish people are less is Germany. So one, why don't you like living in Germany? Is it because of that they say, yeah, it's very cold in Germany, Spain is a Mediterranean weather. So, yeah, but after a while you buy the clothes, then you get used to it. It's okay. Okay. The second thing is that, is it because those guys don't have good food? No, Spain, the food is as good as you have in Kenya. They have Mediterranean weather. You can eat fish, you can eat chicken, you can eat meat, you can eat everything. But Germany, no, because it's extreme cold weather, so you might not get everything. Is it because their food is very bad? They say, yeah, the food is not good. But of course, you can always carry some food from Spain. Then you get used to it, and you're okay. Or is it because German people are cold? No, German people are very cold. There's a time, actually, there's a Southwest airline where they gave a feedback in the, what they call the feedback box saying, don't smile at us too much. You are smiling too much. Just smile enough and keep quiet. Because if you're smiling too much, you make me feel uneasy. So they say, is it because they are cold? They say, yeah, you know, but of course you can get friends and more. But what's the issue? The issue is, if you are in a country where you have cold people, bad food, and bad weather, you are doomed. So a country where there's El Nino, charges for pastors have gone up, cost of living have gone up, fuel has gone up, education system is not subsidized, healthcare system is in trouble. Then if you add these together, no matter what the president is doing, everything reverses. So according to me, the president needs to look at the common denominator. How is the common man and woman feeling in his presidency? that determine how it works. You know a humble person by how they treat the least privileged person in society. But when you see somebody treating his senior with humility, that is actually not humility. That's why Jesus says, if you give to somebody who cannot give you, then it's giving. But if you give to somebody because you can get back to them, they're not giving. So for me, the issue is the common denominator is there, but of course there are a few flares here. Of course, people are saying the president who can talk can travel much. Whether those are competencies for a president, Kenyans can judge. But I agree with my brother that there's a lot more needs to be done.
Pretty much.
And you struggle to scratch on what Kenya Kwanza can score on, but they can still score.
That's it. Guess what? We ended at this particular point. This is Bianco saying, stop saying the president has done nothing. Is hiring 56,000 teachers in 8 months a joke to you? Is increasing public servant salaries by 7 to 10% a joke to you? And what about digitizing 5,000 government services? Also, we cleared like this then. Alinur Mohammed who's saying today, RUTO will deliver his first state of the nation. Expect paid bloggers to defend him. Don't expect anything new apart from blaming the media. Handshake government, the Palestine-Israel war, Uhuru and Raila will be there no matter what. Guess what? We shall also be there no matter what today from 2:30 p.m. to actually give you that live coverage and talk about it right here in the studio. For now, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, let's delve away from issues of the State of the Nation address and talk about consumer journalism. Let's talk about a pillar that also is neither here nor there in this government, affordable housing agenda. Once we come back.
Introducing the Kenya Trade Fair Fusion Sales Drive event in the heart of Nairobi at the Kenya National Archives. It's not just an event, it's sales generation with a remarkable return on investment. Get ready to let your booth do the talking as you study new market trends with lots of entertainment featuring traditional live bands, DJs and artists. For vendor registration, call 0724 715 334 or 0713 907 584 or 0723 861 173.
Nestled in the quiet and serene neighborhood of Makutano, just 2.8 kilometers from the Tarmac Road lies Alpha Meadows. This is a controlled gated community where you can build your city, home, or purchase for investment purposes. If you are looking for a place to call home, full of peace and quiet with magnificent views, then Alpha Meadows is that place. To book a plot, call 0723 979797 or visit us on 4th Avenue Towers along 4th Ngong Avenue off Bishop Road. Alpha Meadows is a product of Fusion Estates. Fusion Estates, your land ownership partner.